So thank you for the time. I'm the only one speaking here, but in fact, I'm representing a large team of researchers who are based here in East Timor, and they belong to the Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry and Fisheries within the small island country of East Timor. The team is very large, about 30 members, and we've been doing on-farm research with farmers over the last 15 years. The topic we'd like to talk about today is hybridising the knowledge and the technologies, the knowledge of farmers and technologies we bring to develop new innovations within East Timor. Timor-Leste, or East Timor, is a very small country, just the north of Darwin, north of Australia, surrounded by Indonesia. It's a very mountainous country, with 40% of the area, of the land area, having a slope more than 40%. So that's easy to remember. The yields in East Timor are very low, and in fact, for almost all crops, the yields of those crops in Timor are the lowest to second lowest in Southeast Asia. This gives a real problem for childhood nutrition, and Timor has one of the 4th worst cases of malnutrition in the world. As most people live on the farm and live on rural areas, the agriculture challenge is quite immense and quite large. To give people access to new innovations and new technology, a team is set up from 2005 to do on-farm research with Timorese farmers. We've conducted more than 5,000 small on-farm experiments over 15 years. Many of them were looking at varieties such as new varieties of rice, maize, corn, sweet potato. We've also done research on rice hull biochar, conservation agriculture, ground cover crops, and more recently, planting of sandalwood trees. The theory, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, is that we can bring material technology to farmers. Material technology is where the knowledge is embodied in the technological product, such as a new tool or equipment, improved plant varieties, or improved animal feeds. But when we bring that and share that with farmers, it comes into a knowledge-based technology. The farmers bring their knowledge base they have, and they judge and evaluate the new material technology, and we find they adapt their knowledge base to suit the new technology. So I'd like to go through 2 case studies where we brought in external products to farmers. We've tested with them, and as we've tested with them, the key thing is that not only farmers were testing the technologies, but they adapted them, and they use them in new ways that we hadn't thought of as researchers. Farmers really are researchers at their core, and the last presentation shows that they have a whole wide range of ways of meeting new challenges. So what we've seen is farmers will adapt new technology we bring in different ways. The first example was a conservation agriculture story. Rice is grown in East Timor at 1 crop a year, and then the field is left fallow. We thought broadcasting mung beans after rice would be a clever idea. This is one of our farmers, Eric, on the south coast, setting up one of our replicated experiments one year. Normally, as most researchers do, we have replicated experiments, we have field days, people come and discuss and look at the different treatments we have. And the field day we had 2 years ago was Juliana. She was one of the mung bean farmers we worked with, one of the rice farmers. And she got up and said, "The system you're giving us isn't any good. The weeds are killing us. And there's a better way of doing it." And she said, "This is how to grow mung beans after rice. You harvest your rice, you spray herbicide," and that was a technology that she brought in because she knew aware of new herbicides in her district. Broadcast mung beans, then go away, have a holiday in the capital city in Dili, come back and harvest your mung beans. So she was able to incorporate the new technology of broadcasting mung beans with her current knowledge of herbicides and weed control to make a new system that we hadn't thought of testing. And that's now the methodology we're promoting and used and expanding across the country. The second example is one of looking at maize storage. Maize is a staple crop in East Timor, with 80% of farmers growing maize on their farm. On the right-hand side is a seed crop, a community-grown seed crop of corn, so they can get quite large volumes. Traditionally, maize is tied up as a lady on the left, and she'll tie them together, the sheaths together, and hang them above the fireplace. But corn stored in a local manner suffer from weevil damage. 3% every month, the corn stored locally in a local manner will be eaten by weevils. So the obvious solution is to keep the corn away from the weevils. And that's done very successfully with mini silos or 44-gallon drums, airtight drums that stop the weevils, allowing farmers to eat the corn instead of weevils eating the corn. So these are examples of using it, of receiving the drums. As we distributed drums and we did a co-payment on the drums, we were thinking, or our staff are thinking, this drum, if they fill it up with corn, will give the family an extra 30 days of food. But the farmer wasn't thinking that. He told us later that all he could think of was dollars. He said, I can keep my corn in this drum until planting time and sell the corn at a higher price. So he knew his own situation. He knew that corn at harvest time was plentiful, corn at planting time was scarce, and if he had good, clean corn, he could clean up in the seed market. So what do we learn? How can we scale up these sort of innovations and hybridized technology that the farmers are producing? The first way of scaling up, I think, is that we should expect farmer adaptation. We should expect farmers to take the technology we bring to them and use them in a new and different way. We should expect that to occur. Secondly, we should allow space for farmers to test and adapt to technologies. We saw this very clearly when we were testing new varieties with farmers. It was important to give them more seed than they needed for the experiment. That way, they could test the varieties in other parts of the farm or give it to neighbours and friends. And so they had more tests of the technology we're providing. So giving them more space, more access to the technology than we need for our particular experiments. The third point, that it's really important to visit the farmers after experiments finished. After the on-farm experiment's finished and the yields are dry and the dehydrators are shut down, it's good to go back and see how they stored the product, how is it kept, what are the long-term effects, what's happened 6 months after, what's happened 12 months after. So repeated visits are really important to learn of this farmer's hybridization of their information and the new technology. And fourthly, it's important to feedback the information back up through the information chain. This helps answer some of the questions that Matt was asking before. How do you get a publication from this sort of technology? And by having enough information feeding back from the farmers up into the decision makers, policy makers, that allows enough data to be collected for publication and for recognition of the farmers' interactions. So in summary, that by expecting farmers to adapt the technology to their own desires, we've witnessed farmers hybridizing technologies and their knowledge to develop new innovations. So it's a marriage of the technologies, the material technology we bring, and the knowledge systems the farmers have. We've seen it here in Timor-Leste, in East Timor, and I'm sure you'll see it in your part of the world as well if you look. Thank you for your time.